In this existence of ours, there are precious few universal truths. Those axiomatic little bits of wisdom that are tried and true and never let you down, no matter the circumstances. And here is one of the truest of them all. Girls who think everybody wants to bang them are always wrong. And on that note, the Honorable Gentlelady from New York, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-TikTok, was in the news over the weekend ranting on Twitter about how all Republican men are frustrated because they so desperately want to get into her knickers. This is, by my unofficial count, the third such incident with her just since I started doing this program. The first one was when she went down to the border, which I believe was the same trip where she dressed up in all white and cried over the empty parking lot. Because when is this country ever going to get serious about parking lot rights? Damn it. But anyway, as part of that trip, she went and toured a couple of Border Patrol detention facilities as part of a congressional delegation, and after she left, it took all of about 8 seconds before she jumped on Twitter and started caterwauling about how all the male Border Patrol agents were leering at her with lust in their eyes and making sexually explicit remarks about her behind her back. She never did explain how she overheard these things that were going on behind her back, but then I don't think she puts a whole hell of a lot of thought into it when that urge strikes, the urge that says, I need to tell the entire world that everybody wants to bang me, which wouldn't be noteworthy or remarkable behavior if it was coming from any old vapid female celebrity, but when it comes from a sitting member of Congress, I think I'm safe in saying it's well nigh unprecedented. The second time, as I'm sure you remember, was during the January 6th insurrection, when our girl Sandy was hiding in a broom closet in a building 3 blocks away from where the riot was happening, and the Capitol Police were going through the office building she was in, just doing a head count on members of Congress so that they were all accounted for. And that's a decidedly more difficult task when the people you're trying to head count are cowering, hiding in a broom closet. And so eventually they located her, counted her, and that was that. But not so damn fast, says Sandy Cortez, after she had had a night to sleep on it, and to have some freaky, weird sex fantasy dreams, apparently. She gets up the next morning, summons her underlings into the room, and says, you guys, oh my god, I was so totally almost raped yesterday. You guys have no idea how almost raped I was. I'm going to need airtime on every single news show today, and probably tomorrow, and probably the next day, so I can be extra sure everybody in the country can hear the harrowing tale of how almost raped I got. Because when the whole world is trying to bang you, it's impossible to get a moment's peace. And this latest incident arose from Sandy's decision to leave the place where she lives, where the people live whom she represents, because let's face it, who the hell wants to stay in a biosecurity police state like New York, trudging around in a face diaper, showing your identity papers each time you want to enter a public establishment, when you can just as well trot on down to the free state of Florida and have a gay old time gallivanting around maskless with your latest boyfriend? But it wasn't the fact that she got busted being a lying hypocrite that set her off this time, because she doesn't care about that. She likes being a lying hypocrite. She knows she can do whatever the hell she wants, and she's untouchable. So she's going to rub our little peasant noses in it each and every chance she gets. That is not what begat this particular tweet storm. Rather, it was the fact that somebody made fun of her boyfriend's feet and pointed out that it's tacky and gross for a man to wear sandals in a restaurant. Now, I don't know which Twitter tweeter it was who made that particular remark that caused Sandy Cortez to launch into an everybody wants to bang me diatribe, but I'd like to shake that man's hand and buy him a beer, because he raises a salient point. Though I wish he would have gone even farther with it, frankly. But if he won't, then I will, so here it is. No man should ever wear sandals in public, period. Unless you're a professional swimmer or a martial arts master. But I don't ever need to see another man's feet for any reason, especially not in a restaurant or on an airplane. If we're on an airplane together or in a movie theater and you rest your sandaled feet on top of the seat next to me, I view that as just about the same level of rudeness as if you had unzipped your pants and pulled out your junk. Your feet are disgusting. Nobody wants to see them. Just like nobody wants to bang Sandy Cortez except the douchebag with the sandals. And maybe Jim Eagle, too. He's over there making googly eyes at a picture of Secretariat right now. I think he doesn't realize that it's not AOC. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where men who wear sandals get used for archery practice, good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. I am your eponymous host and humble servant. And it feels strange to say it, but I've now seen 2 movies in the past 10 days that I really liked. I liked the Spider-Man flick because it was an enjoyable bit of comic book movie fun that kept the nauseating woke bullcrap at bay. But I liked this movie, Don't Look Up, for reasons that are much more important. I didn't think it was possible in this current day and age for a picture like this to get made, especially not by woke Netflix, and especially not featuring a veritable smorgasbord of ultra-woke A-list actors and actresses. Now, right here at the outset, I'm going to say, you know the drill. I don't do non-spoiler reviews, so if you haven't watched the thing yet and you don't want to find out what happens in the end, that the planet gets destroyed and everybody dies, stop watching this video approximately 10 seconds ago. Wait, actually, that's not true. Everybody dies except for a couple thousand rich people who managed to make their escape from the planet on an interstellar spacecraft, and in the mid-credits scene, they arrive at a new Earth-like planet after they've been in cryosleep for 22,000 years, and they all exit the craft stark-ass naked, including the President of the United States, played by Meryl Streep. And as much as I hate to begin this review on a mid-credits scene, and by wondering if that really was a full nude rear shot of 70-something-year-old Meryl Streep that they showed, it looks like that's exactly what I've gone and done here. But I have to admit, it is nagging at me a little bit, because if that really is nude Meryl Streep from behind, then does Meryl Streep actually have a tramp stamp? Or is it just her character who has a tramp stamp? I don't know about you, but Meryl Streep has never really struck me as the tramp stamp type. And frankly, whether it was her or a body double, I need to see an old lady's bare ass about as much as I need to see a man's bare feet. As much as I enjoyed this movie, I don't know that I can ever scrub that visual from my mental hard drive. If I wind up in therapy over this, I am sending the bill straight to you, Ms. Streep. But with that unpleasantness out of the way, this movie is exactly the kind of movie we need at this moment in our history. There are many aspects of the current society and culture that are in desperate need of being mocked and parodied and lampooned and satirized. Because comedy is supposed to be one of our societal guardrails. When our leaders say and do things that are laughable and absurd, they need to be made fun of for it. But with the current rigid speech codes the way they are in Hollywood, comedy writers, comedy filmmakers are unable to do any of that very important work. No motion picture ever did more damage to institutionalized racism than Blazing Saddles did. But you couldn't make that movie today, even though we desperately need movies just like that. We'll never know if there's another Mel Brooks out there somewhere, because a guy like Mel Brooks could never get a break in 1,000 years in today's woke Hollywood creative wasteland. We can't shoot a picture like this. Did you know this script has over 200 instances of the N-word? That just won't do. Get the hell out of my office, you filthy Jewish Klansman. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Don't Look Up rises to the level of Mel Brooks type artistry, but I will say it makes a pretty admirable try. In the third decade of the 21st century, this is probably the closest we will ever get to a Mel Brooks level of artistry. Many of the things in our culture that are in desperate need of being lampooned, this movie lampoons. Many of the people in our culture who are worthy of mockery, this movie mocks. And while I haven't read comprehensively any of the reviews on it, because I never read other people's reviews before I do my own, I did do a bit of headline skimming just to get a sense of what the general consensus looks like, and the general consensus seems to be that leftist ideologues and right-wing ideologues both hate this picture because it hits a little bit too close to home, which is magnificent. When all of the political fringe dwellers on both sides are offended by your comedy movie, then your comedy movie is doing its job. Pardon me. On the far left, They don't like this picture because it skewers the idea of idiotic, vapid celebrities being intellectual thought leaders, and also the relentless artifice of cable TV news and the inscrutable levels of power that are being wielded by big tech oligarchs whose only skill is that they designed a popular website or a popular brand of cell phone. On the far right, they don't like this picture because it gently pokes fun at people whose only mode of political expression is swaddling themselves in the stars and stripes. Wait, actually, maybe that is a little bit offensive. I guess some people on the right are seeing this picture as a heavy-handed climate change allegory, but I didn't see it that way. And then, of course, you've got the people who refuse to give the film a fair shake because they dislike the political views of the actors who appear in it. But when you start taking absolutist positions like that, aren't you kind of being just as dogmatic as the crazy wokesters are over on the other side? Refusing to enjoy a good movie because you don't like what the actor tweets out who's in it? That seems just dumb, frankly. The film wouldn't be any better or worse if Meryl Streep or Jen Lawrence were conservative Republicans, just like it's not any better or worse by virtue of them being liberal Democrats. And look, I'm as idealistic as the next guy when it's the proper time for idealism. But if you're waiting around for a world where Hollywood is full of actors and actresses who agree with conservative politics and they make movies that never poke fun at things and people you like, that's going to be a long, rather miserable wait, I think. So the plot of Don't Look Up goes something like this. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a neurotic, socially awkward astronomy professor from Michigan State. Jen Lawrence plays one of his postdoc students. And she's got the aesthetic of your typical millennial female. She's got a jello-colored mullet, nose rings in both nostrils, ridiculous eye makeup, the whole 9 yards. And you really have to admire a hair and makeup crew that can take a woman as pretty as Jennifer Lawrence and make her look completely unappealing, but I'll be damned if they haven't pulled it off here. And I rather like the fact that both of the leads are playing so against type, just as most of the supporting players are as well. Meryl Streep as the president, who's basically a female Donald Trump. Mark Rylance, who's brilliant in everything he does, as the creepy, childlike big tech oligarch. Kate Blanchett as the dippy American daytime TV host. Ariana Grande as the vapid, idiotic pop star. Okay, maybe she's not playing against type, but I think you get the point. I saw where some critics were complaining that these roles were miscast, but I don't understand what the problem is with having good actors play against type. I actually saw where a professional movie critic said the DiCaprio role should have gone to someone like Will Ferrell, and to that person, I say this: you, my friend, should not be a professional movie critic. So Jennifer Lawrence's character, in the course of her normal postdoc work, accidentally discovers a 10-kilometer wide comet that's on a trajectory to directly impact the Earth in just over 6 months' time. She takes it to her professor, who's played by DiCaprio. They contact the proper authorities in Washington, and within a matter of 12 hours or so, they're both in the Oval Office, briefing the president and her son, the chief of staff, played by Jonah Hill, whose character has a weird proclivity for making sexual remarks about his mother, the president. And can I just stop right here to say, parody is not rocket surgery. And it's so refreshing to see a filmmaker who actually realizes how to do parody effectively. If you get a guy who looks like Donald Trump and a girl who looks like Ivanka Trump, and then just have them do straight impersonations, there is nothing funny about that. But if you gender swap the both of them, then it has the potential to be funny as hell. That's a case where gender swapping is actually a good and useful and worthwhile thing. And yes, obviously, I'm a Trump supporter. I think he was a really good president. I hope he's the president again. But having said that, Trump's whole public persona was calculated to be ridiculous and absurd, and thus to be instantly recognizable. He understands the principles of celebrity a lot like the way Muhammad Ali did, insofar as the realization that you can make just as much money and get just as much notoriety out of people hating you as you can from people loving you. So Trump doesn't do the 80s power tie and the 80s power hair because he thinks they look good. He does it because it makes him instantly recognizable. How many people can you think of who are instantly recognizable just by their profile? Alfred Hitchcock, Dolly Parton, maybe. It's a short list, but Trump is on it. For sure he's on it. And it's also a fact that there have been times in the past when Trump has made weirdly sexual remarks about his own daughter. That is something that richly deserves to be lampooned and satirized. But when you see Jonah Hill gazing up at his own mother saying, "Boy, there's no other president I've ever wanted to see in Playboy," it might take a moment to even realize it's Donald and Ivanka Trump that they're satirizing, because they've reversed the roles and swapped the genders. But then you do realize it, and you laugh your ass off, because it's funny, and the subtlety of it, the obliqueness, is what makes it funny. But the president, she doesn't want to do anything about the planet-killing comet, because the midterms are in 3 weeks. And there's also an emerging scandal with a Supreme Court nominee. I won't give away the details of that plot point, but it does involve a photograph of the presidential vulva. So, the president winds up saying basically, fuck off, go away, we don't have time for this now. But this is all very highly classified, so you better not mention it to anybody else. And then, feeling like they've got no other recourse, DiCaprio and Lawrence decide to leak the information to the news media. So they go on this midday chat show and they share the information. But it gets completely overshadowed on social media by the news of a celebrity breakup and reunion involving the character played by Ariana Grande, who delivers one of my favorite lines in the picture when they're all in the green room together, and she says, "Oh my god, you guys found a comet? That is so dope. I have a tattoo of a shooting star on my back." Because can't you totally picture that being a real thing that a real idiot celebrity would actually say? Because I can. But the government doesn't like that they've divulged this news to the public after having been told not to do that, so they're both promptly kidnapped by the FBI, taken back to Washington. But by this point, the scientists at NASA have double-checked their data, and it turns out that, yeah, shit, there's a comet that's going to straight up destroy the planet in 6 months, so we better mobilize all of our resources right now to try and save humanity. It turns out they've already got a secret plan in place for just such an eventuality, which involves launching Ron Perlman into space on a decommissioned space shuttle along with 20-some-odd other rockets carrying nuclear weapons, and the plan is to detonate the nukes all at once, knock the comet off course so it near misses the planet instead of directly hitting it. The rockets all launch, but before they get to orbit, the mission gets mysteriously aborted, because the big tech oligarch has informed the president that, according to the astrogeologists who work at his cell phone company, that comet contains 17 gazillion metric shit tons of rare earth minerals that are used in the manufacture of our cell phones. So the big tech oligarch basically orders the president to abort the redirect mission so that his company can launch its own mission, where they plan to send a bunch of robots up to the comet to blow it into 30 little bite-sized chunks, which will then, theoretically, impact harmlessly in the ocean, and we can swim out there and extract all the minerals, and this will be the end, asserts the big tech oligarch, of all poverty and war and human suffering on planet Earth for all time. And since he's such a massive campaign donor, the president says, "Yes, sir, right away, sir." Long story short, the second mission fails, and so does a separate redirect mission that was being attempted by Russia and China. So the realization dawns on everyone that the planet's really about to be destroyed, and every creature on the Earth is going to die in a fiery hellstorm. But then I think this movie shows a good heart, in addition to being a good, funny comedy, because our main characters all convene at the house of DiCaprio's character, and they spend their last moments on Earth sitting down, having a nice meal together, enjoying each other's company. They even pray before they start eating, even though there's only one religious person in the room, and they persist in their pleasant conversation right up until the moment they all get blasted into oblivion. And it really impressed me that they destroyed the planet and killed everyone at the end of the movie. I kept thinking that there would be some miraculous last-minute reprieve, but there wasn't. And the moral of the story winds up being that when it comes right down to it, when certain mortality is staring you right in the face, people will seek their solace and their comfort in the things that really matter, in home and family and loved ones. And I really liked this picture quite a lot. I'm curious to know what other people thought about it too, so do feel free to drop a comment. And tell me I'm full of shit if you think I'm full of shit. Also, last thing, small item of channel business before we go. In order to be eligible for monetization on YouTube, your channel has to have 4,000 public watch hours and 1,000 subscribers. And I've got the 4,000 hours now. But I'm still rather woefully short on the subscribers, which means I failed rather spectacularly at being the guy who tells you to be sure and hit subscribe and smash the like button and all that stuff. And look, we all know my channel is never going to get monetized in a million years, but still, I would like to meet the eligibility criteria, just so I can have the satisfaction of them telling me to fuck off. So, if you know anybody who might be a potential subscriber and you can successfully reel them in, I sure would appreciate that. And that is all I have got for tonight. I hope your new year is off to an agreeable, edifying start. I will see you Wednesday. Until then, have a pleasant tomorrow. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.